So I was actually born in Agra, UP, and grew up for 7 years of my life in New Delhi with my grandparents and my parents. And the decision to come to the US was actually my father's. He was the head of the State Bank of India, and he noticed that there's really no more growth for him and opportunity in India. So he said, you know what, I want to go to America. I want to see, it's called the land of opportunity. Let's see if I can make something of myself. Our immigrant story actually began in Canada. My dad came to Toronto, he got my mom there, and I think they finally migrated to the US in the early 70s. And finally I was able to come in 1977, and I remember it was a bittersweet feeling for me, because leaving my grandparents behind and coming to a new land with no friends, honestly I didn't even know the language that well. We were first generation Indians, and that too Sikhs, so nobody really knew what the turban stood for. Nobody knew why we had a beard, and my dad actually had to cut his hair to get jobs. He worked as a janitor, he worked his way up, he had two jobs, and he used to set up stalls at flea markets to try and provide for the family. So it wasn't easy. Even I faced discrimination in school, because being one of the only Indian kids in my entire school, forget class, they didn't know who I was. They didn't know where I came from, because the only thing that American people really knew about was whatever they saw on PBS, which was primarily a lot of nature programming on poverty, programming on how the caste system is in India. They had no clue we had cities. We had one of the busiest and biggest entertainment industries in the world. The traditions that my family kept before coming to the US pretty much stayed even while we got here. We still went to the Gurdwara, we still spoke Hindi and Punjabi at home. Our culture played a big part in our home, and it defined who we are, and it continues till today, and I'm passing that along to my kids. So ABS was conceived out of necessity. It was actually my dad. He was a pioneer in this country for Indian business. We started one of the first Indian grocery stores in Piscataway called Taj Mahal, which then grew into a supermarket, and he was one of the first to introduce video movies to the Indian community. I remember the first video movie we got at the store was Qurbani, and back then we used to actually rent out the VCR and the video movies to people. It was a big thing. Then he started playing movies in theaters. If there was a product missing, he would create that product and give it to the people who could mass produce it and put it in stores, like chutneys, like naan, flour. So when my dad bought this huge, I think it was 20,000 square foot building in Hamilton, New Jersey in Mercer County, one day somebody from a local television station came to my dad and said, hey, would you like to advertise? And he thought, yeah, that's a good idea. But then when he looked at the rates and all, it was cheaper to actually do a half-hour show than it was doing an ad campaign. So my dad was like, you know what, my son loves cameras and he loves Indian movies and all. Maybe we can kill two birds with one stone. We can make an Indian show for the community, which they can enjoy, and we can promote our business. And that's really how AVS started. It started as a necessity to promote my dad's businesses, but then grew into a passion that I had. One thing I wanted to do when I made the show was I wanted people to be proud of it. I didn't want it to lack in the technical department. I didn't want it to lack in the content department. I wanted to make sure that we're showing India and the Indian film industry in a very positive light, something that they could be proud of. I wanted to create something like an Indian version of Entertainment Tonight. I think the secret to success for any business is hard work, dedication, and honesty. If you approach your craft or your business or your job with these factors, there's no way you can fail. You know, when I started, there was one other Indian show, two other Indian shows actually, and I had no knowledge of what I was doing. I just picked up a manual, started learning that. I picked up a camera, started learning that. Picked up audio, started learning that. Got two machines and started editing. Just through trial and error. And believe me, I made a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of things that didn't work, but I didn't give up. I think the happiest moment of my life Contrary to what everybody might think, it's not meeting the Bollywood stars. It's not having, a successful business. It's actually, believe it or not, when my twins were born, Suhana and Arman, and you have no idea the fulfillment, the joy, the contentment I have with my being after my kids were born. And I think that's the happiest moment of my life. I don't think anything compares to that.